Dan and I are absolutely delighted to welcome the Events Room as our sponsor for A Load of BS on Sport. Now, Dan, as an international rugby player yourself, you've attended and been wheeled out at loads of big events over your career, right?
I have indeed, Daniel. Yeah, just a few. What really makes the events memorable, I suppose, is the unforgettable experiences that stick with you. That's what makes them really, really memorable.
Talking of which, didn't you do a pretty cool launch event for your book, quick plug, The Bigger Picture, last year?
I did indeed, yeah. I have to give a massive shout out to the Events Room for that. Seriously, they totally nailed it. They were magnificent and were a huge help for that.
Ah, yes, the Events Room. Right, I've heard great things about them. I mean, just tell me, what made it so good?
I mean, everything, Daniel, to be honest. The space was brilliant for the book signing. They handled everything from the setup to the food, making sure everything ran like clockwork. They've got a real knack for creating a top-class environment and a top-class atmosphere. And I've been to loads of their events. We went for a lunch with Harry Redknapp a few years ago with a few of my mates, which was absolutely brilliant. Probably the best afternoon out we've had. Also been to a cricket lunch with David Gower, which was just amazing. So I suppose it gives you a chance to meet people that you never thought you could meet or get close to, sort of thing. I guess have a great time.
You know, I've always had a soft spot for Harry Redknapp, I must say, as a long-suffering Spurs fan myself. I bet that lunch was an absolute cracker. And we've certainly had a few of our heroes on this podcast. And by the way, plenty more to come. It really is a great privilege of doing this gig. And we absolutely love doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the Events Room can do. They can get the listeners even closer. They're one of the UK's premier event companies, and they specialize in creating memorable experiences with some of the biggest names in sport. So for me, they are the best in the business.
So if you're itching to meet your sporting heroes face to face, or if you're after a truly memorable event with some great guest speakers, or maybe even snag yourself some sporting memorabilia, the Events Room are the people to call.
No doubt about it, Daniel. And with an amazing sporting calendar coming up in 2025, the Events Room have events happening all around the Six Nations. The Lions Tour to Australia in the summer, featuring the likes of Warren Gatland, Alan Wynne-Jones, Sam Warburton, Martin Johnson. And that's just the rugby. And for the cricket fans amongst us, there's an opportunity to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the victorious 2005 Ashes winning side, featuring the likes of Michael Vaughan, Steve Harmison, Matthew Hoggard, etc. So get on the website at theeventsroom.co.uk for their upcoming events and get booking.
So there you have it, folks. A big shout out to our podcast partners, The Events Room, making memorable moments happen in 2025. Visit theeventsroom.co.uk and you can find the link in the show notes. Welcome back to A Load of BS on Sport with me, Dan Ross, and as ever, it's Dan Bigger. Now, Dan, you are looking extremely smooth, like you're about to board a plane pre-rugby tour in your very neatly pressed polo shirt. How are you today?
I'm very, very well, Daniel. Thank you. This was actually a Christmas present from the wife. So Mrs. Bigger gets a bit of a shout out for doing well on the Christmas presents this year. So very good. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Shout out to Mrs. B. Now, Dan, today we're going back into individual sport, actually, and talking golf with British golfer Matt Wallace. Now, you are pretty handy on the fairways, aren't you, so I'm led to believe?
I would say I'm okay. You never really want to give away too many secrets when it comes to rugby players and golf. It's a bit of a trade secret, really, that most rugby players can play. Certainly number 10s. Number 10s can play.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, I want to hopefully try and pick up some tips off him as well, off the back of this.
There's the opportunity. Why do you think, by the way, forgetting only rugby players, why do you think so many sports pros turn to golf both during and after their careers? What's so enthralling about it?
You probably get 4.5 hours on the golf course away from the kids, rather than half an hour game of squash or tennis or whatever. But I just think it's such a great sociable game as well, isn't it? And it's competitive. And my golf is at the level where I play enough good shots in a round to keep me coming back, in amongst some pretty average stuff as well. But it's like, especially you look at so many number 10s who are, or sort of certainly backs, but number 10s in particular, just, never ever believe them. If they say their handicap is 16, you can guarantee it's about 9 or 10 rather than 16. So a brilliant sport. And like I said, hopefully pick up a few tips off Matt today.
Yeah, you found hookers are less handy with clubs in your experience then?
I would say the lower the number you go down on a rugby field, the higher the handicap.
Fair enough. Now, I wonder whether actually many of our listeners will be wholly familiar with Matt, or unless you're a golf nut. Because golf is one of those sports, a bit like tennis or snooker, that most people don't follow beyond the major tournaments. But at a global level, of course, Matt is one of the most brilliant practitioners of his art form. He's currently ranked 66th in the world, but in the rarefied air of elite golf, he's kind of in the middle of the pack, but he's striving for the very higher echelons. But I think that's something that we should explore, especially in the context of individual sport. Because, of course, in your case, you've only played team sport, and you were, I hate to say, you were pretty decent. Or I hate to say, use the past tense, were pretty decent.
No. I think you summed it up very well. You used to be pretty decent, Daniel. I like that. I'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I bet golf could be a pretty lonely place when the chips are down. That's my sort of sense of it.
Well, that's something I'm really looking forward to speaking to him about and asking him, Daniel, because I look at okay, like you said, Matt's number 66 in the world. So on the planet, there's only 65 better players than Matt. So you think that's pretty good going. And I watched the Australian Open tennis. We referenced the tennis the other day, and I watched Jodie Burrage, who is a friend of mine actually, who I know, and she played Coco Gauff, and she was up a break in the second set, and she ended up getting broke and then losing the match and things. And she sort of said, we were talking to her, and she said, like, the difference between being number 3 in the world to being number 66 or being number 100 or 150, whatever it is. And that's something I'm really looking forward to speaking to Matt and asking him about. Just what is the difference between being 66 and being Tiger Woods, being Rory McIlroy, being these guys, you know what I mean? So that's something I'm really looking forward to finding out and seeing what comes back of it.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's face it, the boy has still done extremely well. He's won PGA and European Tour titles, but it will be fascinating to understand more about the broader mental challenges of wielding clubs and putters. So shall we bring him in?
Let's do it. It's a big year for Matt as well, with the Ryder Cup in 2025 as well. So let's bring him in.
Matt Wallace, a very warm welcome to you. How are you, and where do we find you today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I am in Phoenix, Arizona, preparation for the waste management tournament next week. Quite cold, but very happy to be inside now and talking to you guys.
What a name of a tournament, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they've got some of those waste trucks on the golf course for full view, but it's a special tournament. This one, it's something that we never really experience ever, and it's very much like a rugby stadium. That 16th hole, which is a stadium type hole, is very raucous and can get quite crazy.
Cool. Exciting. Now, listen, Matt, you have participated in over 150 tournaments on the European DP World Tour alone, and over more than a decade as a pro. I think you've been pretty consistent. You're always a very competitive player. What do you love so much about golf?
It's a good question, because I've been talking about this with my team about where do I find the enjoyment in golf, and it's not just the mundane things and good shots. Those are the things that don't really get me excited. It's the competition. It's the fierce rivalry we have with each other out here, and competing and trying to get into those positions where you can win a golf tournament. And that's why I feel like when I'm like with a chance to win golf tournaments, I kind of raise my level rather than go the other way. I much prefer to be in contention like we all would do. But when I get there, it's kind of like that competition of trying to win a golf tournament is my favourite part.
You played a lot of rugby and cricket when you were younger as well, weren't you? It wasn't always sort of, I suppose, golf was the be on and end all. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, team sport was my thing. I absolutely loved competing and that dynamic of being in a team and getting the energy off of winning a match or that bus journey home and enjoying those things at school. But then as I got older, I didn't understand why my teammates didn't care as much as I did, sort of thing. Like they were on different paths. They weren't as sporty or competing as much as I wanted to achieve. And then obviously the club sort of level cricket, I played county cricket, and then rugby. I kind of stopped when I went to a more of a football school than a rugby school. And that side, it was the selection side, which I'm sure we'll get onto with regards to a few friends of mine, and then rugby with you, Dan, and Ryder Cup selections and stuff like that. But it was a really interesting time for me where I loved team sports, but then I didn't enjoy necessarily my teammates not caring as much as me, really.
Whereas golf isn't the usual sport that kids get into at school, right? I mean, of course, you were handy at a number of sports, but I mean, do you think it takes a certain personality type to gravitate towards individual versus team pursuit?
Yeah, I think being alone and being able to go to the putting green or driving range on your own and spend time in your own head a lot of the time and doing those sort of things is really quite challenging. But I loved that. I really enjoyed that when I was younger. It was kind of like a way of escaping, what school or difficulties or exams, those sort of things. I just really enjoyed going to try and improve my craft, even though I didn't know I was going to be a golfer out on the PGA Tour one time in the future.
Matt, I'd say you definitely made the right decision not getting whacked about on a cold Saturday afternoon rather than playing 18 holes, 36 holes of golf on a Saturday afternoon. Or Thursday,
exactly. But saying that, I'd like to be able to get my aggression out in a tackle somehow. Go and tackle one of my teammates or one of my playing partners, but we can't do that out here. But
you say that, of course, in your earlier career, you had a bit of a reputation, actually, as a fiery character. Dare I say, struggled to regulate the emotions. I had got this quote, which I don't know, I don't have the date on it. I think not so long ago, where you said, I couldn't carry on being that person I didn't like. Hopefully, I'm changing the narrative of Matt Wallace, the angry beaver, to Matt Wallace. I mean, who was Matt the angry beaver?
I was someone who couldn't control that sort of like red mist that myself and my actions off of bad breaks, poor shots, missed cuts, disappointments, those sort of things. And it was going round, the whole circuit, the golfing circuit's quite small. You see the same people a lot of the time and word gets about pretty quick. So I didn't like that. That wasn't me who I was as an actual person. It was just me as the competitor and golfer. But it's learning that and being able to go, yep, okay, that was me, and then changing that narrative, which I feel like I've worked really hard on. There's still room for improvement as well, and that's what I like about being a competitor, is that I'm always trying to improve and trying to be better in certain things, and I know it will help and improve my golf and my scores. Along with me as a person and what other people think of me. I mean, I used to not get along with a lot of people out here, and now I can call them my friends, because they see a different side to me. So, it's nice.
What did you change, Matt? Was it sort of personal thing? Your game stuff? Was it putting, driving? What did you change?
It wasn't anything to do with the specifics of the golf game. It was dealing with that secondary sort of emotion. The first initial hit of adrenaline, which everyone has anyway, it's something sometimes you can't control. And it's not really, you don't have to control that, but it was more the secondary bit for me, where I would get the frustration out. Damn, that was a bad shot. Swear, hit the club on the floor, whatever. But then it's that next bit, the bit that I've been able to kind of think rationally about and go, yeah, do you know what? That's a bad break. That's a bad shot. But what do we do next? What's giving myself lots of questions. Can I get this up and down? Can I hold this putt? Can I do this? Those sort of things. And the answer is always normally yes, So changing that narrative rather than saying to myself, I'm shit, I'm poor, that's awful, you can't do that, those sort of things. It's changing those sort of self-talk, the things that go on in your head, the things that you say to yourself on a daily basis.
That sounds a little bit like me on the golf course, except for not being able to get up and down or not being able to knock and things like that.
Yeah.
So we've got some similarities there, Matt. Maybe your level's slightly higher, I'd say.
I was just going to say, I mean, it sounds like you've definitely matured since your younger days. I won't endlessly quote you, but it just came to mind talking about how you've changed your way, your demeanor, your behavior, if you like, on the course. You said, when I first came out on tour, I was only ever focused on winning. So when I started missing cuts, I couldn't understand why, which begs the question, what are you focused on now, if not winning?
I'm still focused on winning. It's more like the process of how to get within a chance to do that. What people don't realize is how hard it is over here on the PGA Tour. Like the field is so stacked, and from a weekly basis, it's kind of like, can you perform and do the right things? Like with me and my stats guy and my team, we're always trying to just control the controllables, which is like areas that we know we do well, and just try and do those on a daily basis. And then when you're playing well or when you're not playing well, can you control those bits really decent and make cuts? They're important. I missed the cut last week. Obviously flying 24 hours from Dubai to LA doesn't help, with preparation, and then a Wednesday start. So I only had one day to prepare, but I didn't really control the things I did well or normally do well last week. Didn't hit enough fairways, didn't hold those shorter putts, hitting lots of greens is kind of like my DNA. I didn't do those things, so results in a missed cut. And so it's like getting back on track with those sort of things, the things that I can control and do well. And then the weeks where, you hit that extra good shot, or you hold that longer putt, or you're really dialed in with your approach play, they're the weeks where you get in contention. Then it's about like how big your balls are and how much you want it in your heart, and how you can control your mind to stay in that sort of level where you can win a tournament. There's so many different things here.
What are your real strengths as a golfer? Yeah, and then maybe sort of looking at, where you've changed from.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, good question. So when I grew up, I was always about short game. I wasn't a great hitter of the golf ball, but I grinded. The doggedness inside of me would be like, missing greens, but chip and putt. And then when you do hit a green hole, a long putt, those sort of things. That was my DNA when I was a kid. And then when I went out on the European tour, I had a great caddy called Dave McNeely, who was my first caddy. He caddied for Nick Faldo, veteran on tour. Really helped me like get onto the European tour and like running rather than like stalling and trying to find my feet. And we won 3 times in 2018. My second year on tour, because of him saying, right, the European tour is all about driving it well and putting well. You don't need to do much else. And changed my game a little bit. I drove it really well, and then I putted great because I was always a decent putter, and I was winning. And then you're getting into the realms of top 50 in the world and majors, and then the PGA Tour. And you need to drive it well. Your iron play needs to be really good. Your short game needs to be great, and everyone putts well over here. So I really had to look at my game, and I wanted to become a player that was really good in hard conditions and hard golf courses. So that's ball striking, right? That's because I felt like I had an undertone of my short game and putting that was always going to be there. Now I would say my DNA, because you look at some of the best players and they're pretty good in all areas, right? But my best skill set is short game. That's where my stats really show. My iron play is really solid. I've got room for improvement, but I strike the ball really decent. And my driving went off a little bit in the start of last year. And then I changed driver. I'm not contracted to anyone, so I can use whatever I want.
Always blame the clubs, Matt. Always blame the clubs. It works for me.
Well, yeah, exactly. But sometimes at our level, it is a combination of spin, drive, like these sort of things and conditions, and then also like confidence. So I was able to, I won with the driver that I was using at the time in Punta Cana, but I lost a lot of confidence with the driver. And so I went back to a driver that I used back when, a ping driver, and I got a lot of confidence back with that. And then my dispersion patterns started to tighten up a lot. So driving is really important for me, especially over here on the PGA Tour. Driving is really important. My iron play, I feel like I've improved a lot. So I'm a really good ball striker. Short game is decent. And then the putting. The putting thing is, for me, is the thing that I was really good at when I was winning, quite like on the European Tour. And then over here on quicker greens, slopier greens, I find it more difficult to visualize the read. So get me on slow greens in Europe and where the curve isn't as big, I tend to putt really well. But over here in America, where the greens are faster and there's more break and more slope, that's where I tend to lose the sort of visualization of it all.
Is the story with Matt Belcham true in terms of you planned to go and have, was it an hour lesson with him and you ended up being
my first ever lesson, yeah.
And what was the quote from him saying, "Thank God you can chip and putt because your swing's all over the shop," like that.
Well, that's kind. What you're saying, the way you said it was kind.
I was going to say I kept it clean.
It was amazing. He was a coach that I got kind of like introduced to, saying, "Listen, you should go and see this guy. Very unassuming guy. I've been out on tour for years with likes of Jamie Donaldson, Robert Rock, Simon Kahn." Proven winners on tour who have great golf swings, right? And his background is all about technical, good technique produces good golf shots, those types of things. And I was really interested in it. And then when I went to go and see him, we had an hour booked in. I think I turned up there at 4:00 or something in the afternoon. And we did an hour. We had an hour booked in, and I was there until about 9:00. And we were just there working on. I never knew the swing dynamics that he was on about, but it was all positional, and I really liked that. It was an amazing sort of idea of where I'd come from before, which was all about feel and all that. But being in positions, I loved it. And in the first few swings, because I bowled in there. I was this kid on the Alps tour, third mini tour, and I thought I was the guy. I thought I was the guy walking in there. And he said straight up to me, he said, "It's a good job you can chip and putt because your swing is shit." So I was like, damn. I was like, no one's ever said that to me. It brought me back like really quite down to earth and leveled me out. And I was like, okay, I've got to do some work here. And I put the work in, and with this is our second time together. We had a break in the middle, and we got back together. And I feel like I'm back on the path that I wanted to be on. And we're in a good spot.
It's tough love, I guess. In the end, you talked a bit about form, which is such a nebulous, difficult concept to get one's head around, particularly in a sport like golf. I think clearly you put in the hours, the technical game remains reasonably solid and consistent. So much of it is in the head. But of course, you mentioned some early wins in around 2018, but then you had this long period without the kind of win that you presumably craved. But then 2023, then you mentioned Punta Cana, you won on the PGA Tour, and then just last September, you won again on the European Tour in Switzerland. So that's like 5 years after your previous win. I mean, sometimes like just shit happens and you can't explain it. You go in and out of form. But how do you maintain the resilience just to keep coming back time and again? How do you keep the self-confidence to keep bouncing back from, you don't call it defeat. Dan and I were talking before. It's not about defeat so much in golf, because obviously team games like rugby are very binary, or tennis, either win or lose. But you're playing in fields of, 60 people, but it's so tough.
Yeah, well, most of the time it's 120 to 140 people each week. And then obviously, like at the weekend, it's obviously 65 and you need to make the cut. So it's a good question, because in 2019, I had my best statistical year. Yeah, I didn't win. But I was very consistent. I was up at the leader, like high on the leaderboards. I was competing in majors. But this game is so brutal because there's only one winner, and it happens when Sometimes you don't expect it, and sometimes you're not the best player, but something goes your way. Sometimes someone gives it away and you walk through the door and you win. But most of my wins that I've done, I've been able to do it from the front or get over the line by having a good day, you know. I went through a little bit of a lull, I would say, from 2020 to 22, where I struggled with what I was trying to achieve in the game. I thought I just signed a contract with a new manufacturer, a new club manufacturer, and I just couldn't find what it was I wanted to achieve with what I was using. Again, it's not equipment style. It was more what I was doing with the game. I couldn't hit a fade off the tee, which is what I normally tend to do. So I started off on a bad note with the driver sort of thing. And then along with that, I didn't really know what I was trying to achieve in the game. I was just playing. I was just playing for points. I wasn't trying to focus on like getting to, you know, tour championships or anything like that. I was literally just going from week to week playing without any sort of purpose. I was just trying to play well, you know. And then comes 2023 when I change my equipment. I can use whatever I want. I get another buzz about practice. I go out and I go back with Matt Belsham. And so I'm getting back out on the golf course, trying to achieve something and trying to prove to myself that I've still got what it takes to be really good at this game. And that was the switch I needed. And then again, last year, I didn't have a great start to the year over here in America. And then as soon as I come back to Europe and Luke Donald with the Ryder Cup says points can only be made in Europe. At the end of last year, I made a beeline that I was going to make the Ryder Cup this year. And that's all I care about. And so I played the rest of the year in Europe and it was brilliant. I had something to aim for. I had drive, I had determination, which I've still got, and managed to get a win in Switzerland, which is one of my favourite tournaments and golf courses in the world. It's iconic, and it's those sort of things that drive me every single day. Yeah.
Matt, how much of it you've touched on it a couple of times, and I'd love to sort of know where your mind is at and where everything's at. But you touched on the Ryder Cup being a huge event in the golfing calendar this year. How much does 2018 drive you on? How confident are you of making the team? And also, how confident are you considering that where the Ryder Cup is this year in terms of in Bethpage, where you had your best finish in a major championship? Yeah. So does it feel like everything's sort of lining up a little bit this time around, as opposed to different emotions between the two events?
Yeah, exactly. I felt like the end of last year, I was playing golf where I was like, now this is serious now. I'm in a really good spot. I'm playing good golf. People are commenting on it. I'm seeing it. My team are seeing it. And we're just needing to keep that the same. That was what I was playing at the end of last year was good enough to make any team in the past. So that's my goal. 2018, winning the last event in Denmark with Thomas Bjorn there, the captain of the Ryder Cup. I thought I was in. I thought we were in. Dave and I thought we were in. Didn't make it. Understood why. You know, another rookie selection. I've always said I think I could have done a job still, obviously, and I was playing great. I was probably one of the hottest players in the world at the time. But the Ryder Cup, from what I know now, is a different thing. It's different to just playing on the European tour, which I hadn't played in America or against those guys very often. I missed the cut in France at Paris National that year, so that counted probably a little bit towards me not getting selected. But this time it's different. I finished third at Bethpage in 2019, was it? And I feel very confident this year. I feel in a different spot. I feel I've played over here against these guys every single week for the last 5-6 years. I'm a different person to who I was in 2018. I can deal for sure with what we're going to get in New York from the fans. You know, I feel like I'm that type of character that can look someone in the eye who's giving me grief and say, watch this, you know. You have to dig deeper than normal tournaments. You know, you have to go somewhere that some people are quite scared to go to. You know, they don't want to dive into the area of, oh my God, I'm getting absolutely abused here. Okay, I'm going to front it. I'm going to chest out and I'm going to go. And I've learned so much from friends in sport who are good friends with John Terry. And I mean, he's had a lot of shit in his life. So asking him questions about these sort of things is really interesting, how you front it. And
is it about putting your chest out and looking these guys in the eye, or is it absorbing yourself, your world and your game? How do you engage or not?
Well, there's two parts. I'd say I always front it. I try not to engage with it, but I always front it and go, I'm receiving that. You don't know me. I know myself. You don't know me. I don't know you either. But I'm not scared of whatever you're saying. My worst critic is me. No one's ever given me more shit than I have. So then I am quite comfortable with whatever I receive. And then it's all about getting into what I can control. And what I can control is myself, my golf shot, my swing, my technique. That's why I love the technique of golf. Because if I do what I should do and be able to do, I'm going to execute a good shot.
Matt, I was gonna pick up, because obviously, you know, you guys are so individual for, you know, 90% of the year type of thing this year, for argument's sake. And it's a little bit, I compare it a little bit, we're speaking of, to sort of Lions selection. Obviously, it's a big year for Rugby Union in terms of the Lions going to Australia. Huge year for the Ryder Cup in America. I'm just thinking, I've had sort of two experiences of going on tour with the Lions. One in 2017 where I was so conscious that it was a Lions year and I wanted it so bad. And my form just fell off a cliff. I wasn't anywhere near this. And I was lucky enough to get selected, probably because I had a little bit of credit in the bank.
Yeah.
And I just thought, but everything was about, I have to get selected. And I could physically feel myself being quite tense on the pitch.
Right.
Fast forward to 4 years later, where we went to South Africa, and I wasn't in the best of forms before it, but I just said to myself, I'm going to go and enjoy the Six Nations. If I get picked, brilliant, but I'm quite happy with not getting picked. And it just freed me up and gave me so much confidence to go and play. And I'm just sort of wondering, you know, your form is great at the minute. Is it? That's your first cut since July or August, is it?
Yeah.
So obviously for you, I'm just interested to, you know, clearly, is it playing heavy on you, or do you feel like you're free and you like you just said, you're so in that zone and it's all you want, sort of thing?
I'm so in the zone. I've never had a buzz. You know what it's like, Dan, when someone, like, it's interesting you say you wanted it so bad, I guess it affected you. But in that year, what I'd ask the question to you, like when you went to the gym or when you trained, if you thought about making the Lions, did you get a buzz about it? Did you find yourself, like, I go to the gym now and my trainer will say Ryder Cup when I'm flagging, and oh my God, the fire and the passion inside, I get that extra little kick and that adrenaline hit, and it's unbelievable. I've never had this in my life, like this, how I felt. 18 was great because it was new. I was excited. I was like, oh my God. And then I got smashed. I didn't make it. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's quite depressing. And then I tried really hard to make the next one and I was nowhere. I was absolutely nowhere. I wasn't close enough. I didn't play well enough. But this time is different. This time it feels different. I've got experience behind me. I understand the process, understand what I need to do. I've got a team around me that know how to get people into the Ryder Cup because they've done it themselves, but also how we go about our business so that we're going to be there, because it is individual up until that point. But for me, it's all about what's getting me up in the morning to go and practice, to then like work to a point where I feel uncomfortable and then remind myself Ryder Cup and I go again. So it's like I'm using it as fuel. And last week I got frustrated last week, and it wasn't anything to do with Ryder Cup. It was my preparation. a Wednesday start and I get to LA on Monday night and I have to work on a few things with clubs and coming over here and quick greens like I'm talking about, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. So next week, waste management, I'm here already. My time zone's better now. I'm going to be practicing this week and the drive is there. So I love it. I absolutely love the feeling that I've got inside that is pushing me, because I think in life you need stuff like that, right? You need something to aim for. And I think in 2020 to 22, like I said, I didn't have anything to get my teeth stuck into. And
I was just about to say, I found that exactly the same, because I was getting to sort of a stage in my career where I was edging towards 100 caps, the Lions, test line, etc. And I sort of set those goals, and you just sort of, you get to 91 caps, 92 caps. You sort of just chalk them up and you think again. But I 100% agree with you. I think that in Lions year, World Cup years, etc., there you find that little bit more, don't you? And I think you find out a lot about individuals when it comes to sort of those big moments. How far can you push yourself? How far can you physically go? Do you miss out on going out on Saturday night with your mates?
For me, I'm in a slightly different position to say like a Tommy Fleetwood who's played a few before. They can go out this year. It's a Ryder Cup year. Shane Lowry, he's made it clear. Like they want to be there. They need to be there. There's 6 picks and 6 spots, automatic spots. And you want to be in the automatics, not to give Luke Donald an option not to pick you. So everyone has the drive. I'm obviously in a position where I haven't got Ryder Cup experience, but I've got golf experience now, I feel. And it's a really fun, exciting year, and it's going to go very fast and very quickly. So I need to try and maximize each day to the best that I can.
For what it's worth, Matt, you are looking and sounding extremely relaxed, kind of reclining with a big smile on your face. For those who are watching on video, if you're just reading your body language and not listening to you, you're looking in good shape.
Well, it is a week off for me, so I'm very relaxed right now anyway. But as Luke Donald has told us, we've got an email group going around and stuff like that. It's like he wants us to prepare. He keeps sending emails out, and with how many days left until the first tee shot is hit. So it's those little reminders, it's those little triggers that keep me going. And there is still 200, I think it's 241 days or so to go.
You know exactly how many days it is. Come on.
And it's, it'll go fast. It's like anything in life that you're excited about, it'll go very fast. So I'm going to try and maximize as much as I can. And I'm excited. I am, who knows? Hopefully we do a conversation after the Ryder Cup and we can have another one of these and I can give you my experience.
I get anecdotes of you sinking the winning putt to claim nice. The prize. I'd like to with you both, if I may, since we're talking about comparisons between sports. Clearly, team games are very different from individual sports. I know certainly in rugby, we've talked about this then a number of times. It can be extremely intense when you're on the field. It can be aggressive and unpleasant, but you get to the bar after, and it's very matey. But I wonder. I mean, my experience of golf is that there are a lot of mind games. People keep themselves to themselves to some degree. There is gamesmanship. Every man and woman is out for themselves. And I wonder how matey and collaborative are the tours, or what's the balance?
I think it's changed over time. Obviously, when I first got out on tour in 2017, 18, it was slightly different. You'd spend a lot more time, especially on the European tour, you'd spend a lot more time with the players, go out for dinner, those sort of things. But I think times have changed so much now where families are out on tour. A lot of the guys are individual. They've got their own team around them, trainer, physio, putting coach, mental coach, stats guy, all these sort of things. They've got their own team where they can go and have dinner with their own every night. Or like I like to rent or have Airbnb houses most weeks because the hotels in America aren't as good as in Europe. So having a house most weeks I can cook in. It feels more that I'm not away from home when I'm in a house, let's say. So there's those little things. I don't spend as much time with players over here as I do sometimes do in Europe, because you just have a bit of a better rapport with the European lads anyway. But just to pick up on what you said, Dan, about the team environment in rugby. I've been around rugby a lot, and I was very close with a lot of the Sarries boys. Ben Spencer's my best mate, Jackson Ray, Jamie George, Owen, like all the guys at Sarries. I couldn't understand, right, when I go up to the family dining afterwards and all the lads would come in and the Sarries boys would have lost the game. I mean, I was upset for them, right? And I couldn't believe how okay they were, right? And in the team environment, I guess you can't show your disappointment to your fellow teammates and those sort of things. So everything was like okay until you know, whether it was you got slaughtered in the dressing room before you came up to the family dining. If I'm ever around family dining after I've lost a tournament or something, I mean, it's carnage. Like, you don't want to see me in the locker room or anything like that. I need to get away and just understand it, and then need a bit of time. But I was really interested, Dan, what your thoughts are in the team aspect when you've lost, or it's frustrating and you're surrounded by your other teammates.
Yeah, I mean, experience helps massively with that. You know, when I was 17, 18, 19 coming through, you lose a game, you think it is literally the end of the world. You go up. I remember, it's funny you should say that, because I remember going upstairs after games, seeing your family and almost just literally not even bothering with them, not speaking to them, literally just getting in the car, eating as quick as you can, getting out of the stadium and getting home and not speaking to anyone. And then you just find, as you get older and you play again, like that Sarries team you're talking about, Matt, is full of experience, international, world-class players. So they'd have been around lots of environments where they've lost, they've won, they've played poorly, they've played really well. Yeah. And the best teams and the best players for me tend to just treat every day fairly similar, because especially when you play 30, 35 matches a season, there's going to be days where you have really good days. There's going to be days where you're poor, very similar to when if you have a brilliant round on a Thursday, you can then have a really poor round on a Friday. And I think the best teams have the most players who can keep things fairly level at a level playing field. And the teams that I've been involved with, which haven't been great, have been the teams that get a little bit carried away when you win, and really almost sort of it's almost like P45 time on a Monday morning if you lose type of thing. So I think that's the biggest thing, and the biggest learning I've taken throughout my career is that it's never as good as it seems when you're doing well and when you're winning. And it's certainly never as bad as it seems when it's tough, you're not playing well and you're losing. So saying that, man, I can't imagine that Sarries team that you're talking about. They couldn't have had too many. They couldn't have had too many examples.
That was the thing. That was the thing. They didn't lose much, and when they did lose, it felt like they were okay with it. They're going to get to training the next day and they're going to put the effort in. And I think obviously there's a lot of leaders in that dressing room that if someone did look down, they'd pick them up. And I'm a big Man United fan, so like understanding that 99 team. Sorry, say again.
I said commiserations being a United fan. United fan as well. So.
I know.
Well, Daniel's a Spurs fan, so he's even worse than us, Matt, at the minute. So,
by the way, Dan, do you remember, talking of dealing with defeat, you reminded me of when we interviewed Johnny Wilkinson last year. We talked about being thumped by Australia and literally sobbing in the dressing room for about 3 hours. I think he is an unusual fish.
Johnny's at the extreme end of emotion. But it's funny, Dan, you should say, and Matt, you make a great point, because you look at those Sarries boys in particular, but we're in a team environment. We've got somebody to pick us back up, or even if you're having an absolute shocker of a day, performance-wise, you've got somebody, you've got 14, 22 other players who can bail you out. Whereas, on the course, and this leads on to the next question I was going to ask, is how, you mentioned about some of the players have got teams around them. How important is your team around you? And, in particular, that relationship, I suppose, with your caddy, which is effectively like another player, coach on the course with you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're some guys don't like a big team. Some are just themselves and their caddy. You know, you need a caddy out on tour. It's in the rules, so you need to have someone out there carrying your bag. So some people don't like a big team, but I've always grown up in a team, right? I've grown up surrounded by a team, so I enjoy the fact that I've got a trainer and someone who pushes me in the gym. You know, something I don't need to think about too hard sometimes, where even if I'm not up for it, someone's going to push me and get me through that day and say trigger words that are going to get me there to push me. Putting coach, psychologist, stats guy, swing coach. So that's my team, and we're all on this same plan. You know, we've got this plan to make the Ryder Cup, so everyone's on board with the same things. So yeah, like on a daily basis, it's like, what am I doing today to have a great day? What am I doing to improve? What am I doing to try and be successful? And those little things, it's always great when you have a team around you just to pick you up or to keep you level, you know, or not get too high. I've never been one to get too high. I've always thought about what next after you win. So, my team are brilliant and they understand me well. I'm probably someone who gets down. I'm probably the Johnny Wilkinson type who might cry for 3 hours in the locker room after losing. But I also use the challenge of trying to be better the next day to go again. And my team are very much like that, and they really help me out.
But do you feel, Matt, that you are a sort of team man yourself? Talking of Ryder Cup, you have the Team Cup experience. How did you adapt into that? Did you naturally fit into it well and feel very comfortable? I mean, the answer's got to be yes.
I loved it. Yeah, well, I loved it. I loved it. The dynamic of, and we played great as well. And we were a great team. Justin Rose was a brilliant captain. We had a really good team around us. I had very fortunate partners. I played with Justin on the first day, and then with Tyrrell for the whole of Saturday, who played great, and we bonded really well. We're really good friends anyway. And then the singles day on the last day was an interesting day because you're always out there with a partner for the first 2 days, and obviously 3 rounds because there was 36 holes on the Saturday. And then it's just you and your caddy, you know, on the singles on the next day. So Jamie, my caddy, it was a very important guy next to you to be your partner for the day. And the caddy player relationship is very important in the good times, in the hard times. It's a very important guy.
I wonder, just building on that, in match play scenarios, how difficult is it to play the opponent rather than the name? I mean, you missed the Tiger Woods glory years, but I wonder how much the psychological advantage reputation confers.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to, when you know who you're playing, you obviously go, oh, okay. But then you've got to do your own thing. You've got to play your own ball, not care about him. You need to get off to a good start. Match play, there's so many stats saying if you win the first hole, you know, the chance of winning is like 60% chance if you win the first hole. It's loads of different stats that we've been thrown at the Team Cup, which was learning and brilliant. All these sort of things to get you across the line and hopefully remind yourself that you're not playing against the name, the other person. You just go and do your own thing and beat this guy. I lost my singles. I was 3 up after 10, and I missed a short putt on the last to lose 1 down. So that was quite frustrating. But, you know, the dynamics of it all, we'd won by miles already. So my mental psyche might not have been in the same position as it was if I had to win, you know.
I really, we touched on sort of, you know, bringing Tiger Woods' name and the reputation and the, I suppose, the real greats of the game.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to know, like, what separates those guys from, you know, from the rest, I suppose, in terms of, you know, your top 50, 100, 150, etc. What is it? Purely that mental edge, playing big shots well, big holes well? Because I know Jodie Burrage and fairly well, who just lost in the Australian Open tennis, and she was playing local golf, and she was 5-2 up in the second set, serving for it, and ended up losing the second set 7-5. And we were chatting, and she was almost saying, like, that's kind of the difference between being number 3 in the world and being at that level, maybe being just perhaps a little bit below that. So I'm just really interested to know, like, what makes, the Tiger Woods is these guys absolute greats type of thing.
Yeah, well, Tiger's in a different realm.
Yeah,
I played with Tiger in the Open the first 2 days at Portrush, and I understood what comes with being Tiger Woods. It was unbelievable, like carnage, and it was great to be able to experience that. I think I've only ever got experience, like the highest I've ever been is 23rd in the world. I've got experience of winning all around the world pretty much. And the only thing that I can say the difference is consistency on a week to week basis. You've obviously got the likes of Rory, John Rahm, Tyrrell now, the guys, Xander Schauffele, the guys, and obviously Scotty Scheffler, he's kind of in a different realm a little bit as well. But those guys, they do a lot of things well and on a consistent basis, right? They might have the odd week, but what they're really good at is just, like I said at the start, controlling what they do quite well. They don't have to be unbelievable at this. You don't have to be crazy good. When you're good, clearly you're going to be able to hit good shots. You're confident. You're going to hold putts. You're going to do things better than most of the people you're playing against. But what I try and work on to get back into the top 50 in the world, to get to top 10 in the world, is being really consistent with hitting the golf ball, my dispersion patterns being tight. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be that little bit tighter, that shot that doesn't go into the water, that catches the fairway, or catches the rough even, and you can still manage to make a par out of it rather than making a bogey or double bogey. Tiny little margins, they're small margins. But those guys, playing with those guys, sometimes it's quite unassuming. Sometimes you go out there with this preconception of, oh my God, I'm going to see prime Tiger 2000 playing with Xander Schauffele this week. But actually what he did really well when I last played with him was really consistent off the tee. Didn't hit every fairway, but was very tight in his dispersion. Hit lots of greens. When he had a wedge in his hand, he had a really good chance. It was inside 15 feet. Wasn't stiff, inside 15 feet. And then momentum, And that's what they do on a daily basis. And that's why they're kind of at the top of the leaderboard. They're not going out there shooting 6-7 under every single day. You can't do it in this game.
You call it being at least a 7 out of 10 every day.
Yeah. Something like that. I mean, but you're obviously striving to be better than that, and that what you practice. And then obviously the mental game, they're very good.
When you played with Tiger at the Open, did he impart any wisdom? Did you tap him up for so what was the chat down the fairways?
So there is a story that has gone around about this, but I'll kind of tell the nice. Well, we didn't speak basically.
I don't tell the nice bit.
I was.
Go on.
I was obviously very nervous to talk to him. And I plucked up the courage on the second day on the 14th hole. So it's taken us nearly 30 holes for me to even say.
You barely chatted for me.
I didn't know what to say. I don't know what to bring up. And he's obviously trying to do his thing. I was making the cut. He was missing the cut. And I just plucked up the courage on the 14th hole, par 5, thinking, like, Man United fan, got a few friends, ex-footballers, I'm thinking, right, I know Darren Fletcher, Michael Carrick, Paul Scholes, David May, these types of guys, legends, I think. And I was like, so Tiger, do you have a football team, a soccer team? And he's like, I don't know why. In my mind, I thought, do you know what? If he ever wants to go to a Man United game, we can go, right? And I was just like, do you have a football team? He's like, no, but Charlie, his son, is a big Barcelona and Lionel Messi fan, and we're quite close with Lionel Messi. I was like, oh, for goodness sake, that trumps my David May, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. So that kind of killed my story. And then I spoke to him after the round, saying, listen, that was an honor to play with you. Sorry about your back. He had back problems at the time. And I hope to see you, because we were at the same golf club, Medalist down in Jupiter. for about 5 years when I was down there. And I said, I'll see you at Duke, sir. And he was like, yeah, I'll see you there. So that was all really we had in conversation that week. And but more the experience of playing with him. And I mean, I fist pumped the putt he holed for birdie on the second day. It was really weird, like I was a fan. But I am a fan of his. I grew up watching him. He was the reason I got into golf pretty much. So being able to play with him is a really cool thing. And I'm quite lucky to have played with a lot of my heroes growing up. Yeah.
I love that. I love that anecdote. I mean, whatever else you achieve, I mean, you played a couple of rounds of golf with Tiger Woods, and that is pretty cool. Because as an exceptional professional yourself, I mean, he does stand out as one of obviously the legends of sport. Shall we do a few quick fire questions to wrap up?
Yeah, why not?
Is the right answer. Okay. Dead or alive, well, which I don't mean playing with dead people, but from golf or otherwise, who would be your dream four ball?
Oh, not just golfers, anyone.
No, anyone in the world. I mean, you could pick Henry VIII if you like. You know,
you can't pick Ben Spencer though, Matt.
I wouldn't want to play with Ben. I wouldn't want to play with Ben.
No.
I think I'm going to stick to golf because I haven't had enough time to think of who I'd play with elsewise. I think I'd stay down the routes of like great swingers and great hitters of a golf ball. So like Sam Snead, Ben Hogan, and probably Jack Nicklaus. Those three. Just obviously, I didn't grow up watching Jack really in his prime and just getting the end of it and watching videos and him winning his last Masters and things like that. Like, is special, and I'd love to play with those guys in their prime and see how they go about it.
You have to make a pledge to yourself not to wait till the 14th hole to say hello.
Well, I think I'd catch them in the club. I think I'd catch them in the clubhouse. Yeah, first.
Yeah, exactly. A shivering hand to say well, but okay. If we weren't talking about golf right now, what's a topic you'd be passionate to discuss?
Trying to be successful. Anything trying to be successful. Any walks of life. That's why I like pro-ams and playing with these businessmen and influential people that are quite successful. I love talking to sportsmen in different areas. Like Dan, I could talk to you all night and talking about things and situations and things you've been through and how you've learned from them and little things, little triggers that people remember and what you did and how you've improved, because everyone is different. My dad always taught me to be a sponge, and take everything in and then rinse out all the stuff that you don't need. So something Dan might say would resonate with me and some stuff might not do, but I just love being able to talk about passionate about success and sport, and then being able to try and implement that in my life. Yeah.
We'll have to walk a few holes, Matt, in Wentworth. I know Tim at Wentworth as well, who obviously sort of connected us up and things. So we'll have to try and get out and walk and talk a few holes.
Come down, for sure.
I was going to say about John Terry's playing there. He maybe get a shout out for the Ryder Cup anyway at the minute. So,
I'll tell you, he's the biggest bandit in the world, but I'm not sure he's quite good enough for the Ryder Cup yet.
Well, knowing his history with the Champions League, he'd probably put on the kit and just sort of chase up.
He'll be there. Honestly, if I'm there, he's definitely going to be there, and I'll probably give him some kit anyway, just for a bit of banter.
And exactly. And listen, here's another golf question. So I'll get you back on in your comfort zone. What golf course or hole gives you the shivers?
Sawgrass, the 17th hole. The only reason it gives me the shivers because I haven't hit it in the water yet, and I've played it maybe 6 times in a tournament. So like, what's that? Maybe 20 plus times I haven't hit it in the water. So there's going to be one time, isn't there? There's going to be a time. So I'm just waiting for that, and I'll just try and concentrate on hitting the green and land. So probably that hole. Yeah,
exactly. And what's the kindest thing anyone's ever done for you?
Kindest thing. Anyone being my caddy is quite kind, aren't they?
You're a difficult captain.
Well, I'm just passionate and I want the most for me. And sometimes, it's like what I was like in team sports when I was younger. No one's ever going to be wanting it as much as I am myself. So it's just trying to find that balance of someone actually trying to help you and understanding that, as opposed to them trying to mess you up, which they're clearly not trying to do, but just very passionate about trying to be successful and finding that right guy, which I've really found now in Jamie Lane, saying how much he wants to help me and help me achieve my goals. So yeah, that's the nicest thing I'd say. Anyone in my team working with me, I think that's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me, is because they're on the same path as I am.
Just, you mentioned about, obviously, because it's quite well documented that you did change your caddy and things like that. What I suppose, what's the difference between the two, and how comfortable are you now? And I suppose, was that a difficult decision to sort of part from someone who's sort of to where you had got to change it up?
I'd say I've had 3 long-standing caddies: Dave McNeely, Sam Bernard from France, and now Jamie Lane. So I've had some intermittent caddies in between, trying to find the right person. I always like caddies who are driven, but Jamie's slightly different. He's played 2 Ryder Cups, or been a part of 2 Ryder Cups. He's been around for a long time. He's really good friends with Billy Foster, who's a long-standing caddy and's been around for years, and caddies for Matt Fitzpatrick. What Jamie does really well is he understands, and he's a brilliant caddy. He understands the situation, and he's part of this journey that we're trying to make the Ryder Cup, and he gets that, and he's done it before. So he's imparting his experience on me and trying to help me with that. So he was a great person to have by my side. It's very difficult to ever part ways with someone who's tried to help you and been with you. I mean, we spend 5 hours a day on the golf course. That's just on the golf course together, let alone the practice days and the beforehand and the afterhand. And then sometimes you're in the house together. So you spend a lot of time with these guys, and it's a difficult thing to get right. But I feel like I've definitely got the right guy by my side at the moment.
Just to follow up on, I mean, what's provoked some of the fallouts you've had with caddies in the past?
Me not taking responsibility and accountability a lot of the time, understanding that all they're trying to do is do their best a lot of the time. But then I just question myself when I go, are they doing enough? Because of how much I'm putting into what I'm trying to achieve. Are they doing enough? But that's experience. That's like, I'm sure, Dan, you've had bust-ups with some lads who haven't given enough, in training.
I've never had that in my career. Right. Never.
and you just go, listen, I'm just putting you on the spot. Are you doing enough? And that's all I've ever had, all I've ever wanted. There's no malice to it. There's nothing that goes beyond the point of just trying to be professional. And that's the part that I feel like I've really understood now. Taking accountability for my own shots is really important. Yeah.
I was going to just to follow up on that, Daniel, that like the best teams and groups of people and individuals hold themselves to account as well. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I remember we played England at Twickenham one year, where there was something going on. We were 5 meters from our own line, about to exit and about to clear to touch. And me and Neil Jenkins, who's a Welsh kicking coach, who I spent loads of time with, who our relationship is as good as any relationship I've ever had with a coach.
I loved watching him play. He was great.
An absolute legend, but was fiery and would hold you to account. And if you weren't pulling your weight, or if you felt like you were doing something wrong, it wasn't. There was no grey areas. It was black and white. And I just remember I wasn't even looking at the ball. It must be for about 15 seconds. Me and him are just absolutely going at it behind it. Well, I haven't looked at the ball for 10, 15 seconds. And he's saying, it's your fault. I say, it's not my fault. Turn around, tell him to do it. Then we're in the changing room afterwards. And we're laughing and joking about it, hugging it out and things like that. And then Monday morning, it's as if that's never happened. And we look at, how can we get better, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think it's such a big thing nowadays, isn't it? That you have a disagreement or an argument or,
Was that picked up in the press though? Was that picked up on TV? Spoken about?
Not that example, but other examples where I have had it picked up. And it's so funny how different it actually is when you're in the team room on the training.
I remember something similar. I remember in this it's all on the internet and posted about me berating caddy Dave. And that was the 18th hole in Germany. And we were just having a back and forth. And I was like, how did you give me this line? We spoke about a different line in practice and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, afterwards, like, it's picked up, right? And on TV and everything, and I'm getting slaughtered for it. But after the round, we're sat down talking about it and ending whatever was said on the golf course with a hug, and it was all fine, but nobody picks up on that bit. And then it's just carried on, and the narrative is really, really quite damaging. But we're great. Like, Dave and I are brilliant. We love talking about those sort of things and learning from those things. And it's just dealing with the media a lot is what I've learned quite a bit coming out on tour.
I used to love those moments. Honestly, I used to love those moments where you're challenging each other. And then, like you said, you have a beer afterwards, or you're in the change room afterwards, whatever it is, and you actually chat through it, and you think, okay, well, I probably could have done this better, or this, or I could have done X, Y, or Z. And I really love those moments. And like you said, it's perception, and it makes for a better story if you don't report on that part as well, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Journalists are constantly sniffing for stories, and I think it's a representative that a lot of them have never played the game. Well, I don't think it takes too much intelligence to understand the intensity of playing elite level sport. I mean, how do you find media scrutiny generally?
I mean, I've probably, from my experience, been like 60% negative, 40% positive. I'd like to swing that around in the other way, because I feel like you're always going to get something negative if you're playing well or poorly. But I've learned to. There's been some false stories out there before as well, and it's kind of like, man, how's that even been spoken about or said about me? But then it's also understanding what someone else, like I asked my team, is that really how things are perceived and how it is? And they might say, yeah, and I go, okay, I want to address that. And that was the whole point in that moment of back, I think it was 2018, of taking more responsibility and taking accountability, like what Dan has just said there. And I've changed that completely about myself, and that's changed me as a person. I've been able to be a lot more confident in my decisions rather than relying on someone else's decisions who is trying to help me. And it just makes you, like, those little things can really trigger to make you a better person anyway. The media side, I guess I'm not in it enough to really be like damned or fueled by it in any sense. So I'm hopefully I'll get more media attention about my good golf than I do anything else.
Let it be a good problem to have. I think our quick fire has become something of a slower fire.
Have we got any more questions? Any more quick ones?
More questions. It's such great chat. We'll do one final one, which is simply, what makes you happy about being alive today? You can't say Ryder Cup.
Good question. What makes me happy about being alive today? It's always going to come. It's always going to come back to this, because it's who I am as my makeup, and that's just trying to be the best version of myself and the best I can be, especially in golf. I'm always trying to improve myself in the terms of a human being to my friends, my family. But waking up every morning to be the best I can on the golf course is just the best driver I've ever had. And it really gives me a purpose in life. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Well, Matt Wallace, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
So I love that conversation with Matt. How do you feel about it, Dan?
Well, I just sound like I'm like a sports fan. You know what I mean? So, like, for me, listening to something like that was just so fascinating. I really, really enjoyed it, you know, from talking to the caddy to, you know, knowing what it's like to walk up the par 5, 14 with Tiger Woods. And I love that. I love that line about him basically angling to try and, you know, see if he can pull a few strings, get him into United with David May and Dennis Irwin and those guys, or whatever, whoever it was. And then he said, oh, actually, I'm quite close with Lionel Messi and things. So,
that was a classic comparison. I mean, the thing that struck me, and I did mention it, by the way, was just his demeanour, because that was something really interesting. He definitely wanted to talk about in advance, which was his major ambition to compete in the Ryder Cup. He'd failed a number of years ago when he thought he should have or could have made it. And because I was curious before we discussed this, whether the pressure of reaching it in the same way that you talked about reaching your first limestone and the way that it negatively impacted your form would ever be a sort of noose around his neck. But he's just so in the zone. Even he missed this cut last week, but didn't affect him. He's so in the zone. He's got such a relaxed, happy demeanor. Just seems in such a great place in his life.
It feels like it's having the opposite effect on him, doesn't it? In terms of, it feels like it's driving him to push standards, to work harder, and just go for it. So no, I thought that I was really, really, I don't know if what the right word is, impressed or intrigued by how big being part of a team was. Even going to sort of saying how he likes having quite a big team to feel like he's in a team. You know what I mean? In terms of whether it's the skill coach, mental coach, driving coach, putting coach, caddy, manager, etc. And I get the impression that he would give up everything in his golfing year this year to be on that team and be part of a winning
live a few years ago. I mean, by the way, no wonder the prize money's so bloody high in golf. You listen to the size of his entourage. I mean,
but no, I thought it was good. I think, like I said, it's a huge, huge year for golf, isn't it? And to get, probably one of the red hot form guys to be able to chat to us this evening was pretty special. You know,
it was very special. It was because historically, I think the Europeans are far more passionate about the Ryder Cup than the Americans. I don't know whether that's misplaced, but historically, of course, Tiger Woods, maybe Phil Mickelson, they were such individualists. It was never really for them. But, even the likes of, Poulter, Lee Westwood, guys who actually never won majors. But, you knew that when Ryder Cup came around, it was absolutely their tournament. And it sort of shows you, we didn't actually talk about any of the majors at all, apart from his third place finish in 2019 at the USPGA. But, actually, what is his goal? He wants to play in the Ryder Cup. It's not, I'm sure he'd love to win the British Open, but, it's the Ryder Cup, which is absolutely driving him.
I think he's mentioned it a few times, didn't he? That the drive to want to get better and better and better. And I think that will clearly help him in the long run in terms of improving in majors and being a better golfer and getting the experience in Ryder Cup, etc. But no, it was brilliant. And I think it's, hopefully the first of a few golfers we can get on the show as well.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Lovely to see you as always. Speak to you soon.
And you, mate. Take care.